Hi everyone, in this tutorial I will talk about some animation in Excel worksheet and how to calculate the value of pi using Monte Carlo approach. So here is the program which is already set up. I will show you how to make this sheet, but right now I wanted to show how this work. So suppose I enter here 1000 points. So what does this mean is that, so let me clear this. So when I will click start, it will randomly throw the points on this graph in a square. So that square will be from +1 to -1 in both x direction and y direction. And then these points, some of them will fall inside the circle and some of them will not. And by taking the ratio of the points which are inside the circle, so here you can see point inside the circle and then point in the rectangle, so we can take the ratio of that points, and then from that we can calculate the area of the circle, and from the area of the circle I can calculate the value of pi. And then on the right side you can see this graph which will calculate the dynamic value of pi. So as we increase the number of the points, the value of the pi will converge to the actual value. So let's click start here. So you can see now that uh, so the total number of points in the circle are less as compared to the total point in the rectangle. So this is obvious, and you can see that some of the points are falling outside and some of them are in the circle. And then you can see that the value of pi, so this red line is the actual value of pi, which is 3.14, and then this blue line is the one which is the simulation. So as we increase the number of points, our value converges more towards the real value, so we are more accurate about the value we are calculating. So right now you can see that the value is 3.04, and as we increase the number of points we will get much closer to 3.14, which is the actual value of pi. So let's let it be completed, and then I will show you how did I build this program. So in this sheet you can also see, if I go um, down, there are some numbers here, and then we'll talk about how did I do this calculations. So right now yeah, so it ended and the value of the pi is 3.09 according to the simulation. This is little off from the actual value because we did not use a lot of points, so we need to collect a lot of data to get the real numbers. So because there is always a room for error, so instead of 100 points 1000 points, if I used 50 points, then it will be much more off. So you can see, like, I can say clear and say start, and then see for 50 points it's 3.2, and you can see that there was a large deviation from the value of the pi, and as we go with the simulation on number of points increases, we can go closer to pi. So now how do I make this sheet? So let's look into the sheet. So what I've done is I use VBA. I will show you in a while how did I use the VBA. So I use VBA to generate random points which ranges from -1 to +1. So this column has a random point which ranges from -1 to +1, and this one also has a point which ranges from -1 to +1. And then I take the square of this number and square of this number and add them together, so that will give me the distance from the origin of that point. So let's consider this as x axis, x value, and this consider as a y value. So so now if I take x square plus y square, so xx plus yy, so this will be my distance from the origin. So, right, so now as you can see, this circle is at the origin, the center is at the origin. So we can define a condition that if the distance from the origin is less than 1, then count that point to be inside the circle, and if that distance is greater than 1, then consider that point to be outside the circle. And as you can see, because I take the range from -1, so this is only from -1 to +1, right? And then y is also from -1 to +1. So this, therefore this if it can only go from -1 to +1 and y can only go from -1 to +1, that means that we are limiting our points in this range from -1 to +1 on the rectangle. So all the points will fall within the rectangle, but some of them will fall inside the circle. And how will we know that they fall inside the circle? By putting this condition that whenever the x square plus y square is less than 1, then it is in the circle, and if it's greater than 1, then it is outside the circle. So now I just calculate that points here, or count that points here, the number of points in the circle and number of points in the rectangle, and then from that I calculate the value of pi. And here um, I can see, you can see this is the dynamic value of pi which I've calculated. So let me go to the VBA now. So for VBA, you go to the menu of the Excel sheet and go to developer and say view code. So let's go to the VBA. So now I'm not trained as a programmer, so I might not be using the right terminology for the part of the programming I've done here, but I'll show you how I did it. So here, first of all, you have to define sub, and then the name of the macro you want, or the name of the macro you want to give to your program. So I'll say animation here, and then I put the parenthesis. So now this macro will be named as animation, and then I can define any variable like b is equal to 1 and a is equal to 12. So these are just integer numbers, like same way you do in other programming languages. And now I have a loop, so do until. So this is do until, same, you might be aware if you have a little bit of programming background, you can say that do this process again and again until this number is less than the particular number you want it to be. So right now I'm saying that I'm saying do until a is less than cell 3 comma 4 plus 11. So what is 3 comma 4? So let's go here and see. So what is uh, 3 comma 4? So cell 3 comma 4 means the third um, row and the fourth column. So third row and fourth column is our number of points, which is 50. So what I'm saying is that do the simulation under until the number of the points will be at least 50. And so here, because I've already defined a to be 12, and I want the simulation to be placed after 12th row. Like you can see, all the simulation starts at number 13. So therefore I have to define it this way, that I have to add the number 11 here because I start with number 12 here. So you can figure that out, that's not very difficult. And then uh, we have to so this is how I define also some variables here. I'm not sure how they are useful or not, but let's go to the main program. So the main program is that cell a plus 1 comma 3, which is 13th row and third column, and it says is equal to 1 minus 2 into r and d parenthesis. So what is r and d? R and d is a random number from 0 to 1, and if I multiply this r and d by 2, that will be a random number from 0 to 2. And then if I subtract it from 1, that will give me a random number from -1 to 1. So what I'm doing here by these two commands is that I'm defining cell 13, row 13 and column C and column D as the random numbers, and as we increment the value of a, it will go to the next row and put the random number there. So now these are two cells which have defined the random numbers, and then we define x as the cell, uh, first cell, which is column C, row 13th, and then y as another second cell, which is uh, column D and row 13th. So now I define x and y Then I define distance. Distance is x squared plus y square. And then we define if distance is less than 1, then circle points is equal to circle points plus 1. So we have to first define that circle points are 0. So let's say circle points is equal to 0, so that whenever we start the program, it does not should not be defined in the loop, it should be defined outside the loop. And then we have rectangular points. So rectangular points are all the points, so they could be uh, so they doesn't need to be counted. So irrespective of whether distance is less than 1 or greater than 1, they will always be counted. So rectangle points is rectangle point plus 1. And then we define pi, which is circle points, which is circle points into 4 divided by rectangle points. So if you think about it, what does circle point represent? It's the area of the circle, and the rectangular point defines the relative area of the rectangle. And if so, because rectangle is only one, the side is defined as 2, and the uh, so like the x, like if you look at the rectangle, it's the total the length of the rectangle is 2 and the breadth of the rectangle is 2, so the total area is 4. So that's why we are dividing the rectangular points by 4 to normalize it, and then that will give us the area of uh, the area of the circle is pi r square, and if r is 1, then it will be only pi. So that's why we have divided the area of the rectangle by 4 and then multiply by the number of total points in the circle, and that will give us the pi. So you can do the math, or you can give a comment, I can answer that. So now you can say cell a plus 1 comma 6 is pi. So what I'm doing is I'm putting the value of pi in this column, and then I'm saying cell a plus 1 7 equal to rectangular point, cell 6. So this is now I'm putting the points or the results in the sheet wherever I want to. So like for example, like 6 4 is uh, this column, so number of points in the circle. So I say 6 4 is equal to circle points, 7 4 is equal to rectangle points, and a plus 1, this is again the value of pi. So why I'm putting these points in this column is because I also want to plot a graph, and if I can put the points in the column here, then I can plot the graph for simulations, or for the animations. So now you can see, so here it ends and it says do event. So what this program is doing is, so this do event is important because do event means that one event is completed. So you can see that whatever I simulated, I put it in the do event. So I put do event on the top and then do event in the bottom. So now whatever we are doing is considered as one event. So each simulation will be considered one event, then again it changes the number of points, it again is a second event. So all I have to do is that programming, and then these graphs are normal graphs. I just plotted the graph. I can show you the source data for it. So I say uh, select data, and you can see that this is only the my uh, x value is the random number, and the y value is also y value is also this random number. So I just plotted them this points as x and y on this circle, on this graph, and then I just drew this circle by myself by putting by putting a drawing here. So now what happened is that when I click start, then it generates a point. So it generates the random number, and this random numbers appears on this graph because the simulation puts that number into these columns. And as they so you can see, like if I say clear, then there are no numbers here, so there is nothing here. And then when I put say start, then the numbers are automatically showing up here because of the simulation, and because they show up one by one, they are also plotted in this graph one by one. And same way, because this value of pi show up here one by one. They also get plotted in this graph one by one. So this graph is also just the mere uh, plot of value of pi versus the number of points here. So now so this is how the program is. You can think more about it and it will get clear, but I have already described you the main concept. So again, I can show you the simulation. I say clear, I say 1000 points, and I say start, and then it just start putting the random numbers into the let me yeah, so it start putting the random points into the graph, and this circle is just a drawing just to visualize how many circle how many points are in the circle and how many points are not in the circle. And you can see the points in the circle are less as compared to the total points which are there on this graph, and based on the ratio of these points, we take this ratio and multiply by 4. That will give us the value of pi, and the value of pi will get closer and closer to the real value, which is this red line, once we have enough simulations. So as you increase the number of the points, or as you wait longer for the simulation, you will get closer to the actual value of pi. So I hope this tutorial will help. If you have any question, please let me know. Just comment on this YouTube video, and thank you.